I give Disney Plus a lot of guff, but as far as streaming services go, they're all right in my book. And that's for two reasons, principally. Reason number one is The Simpsons. And the second reason is they have every single animated feature film that the Walt Disney Animation Studios has ever produced. All of them, every single one, except for one. There is exactly one Disney animated feature that is not available in the Disney Plus catalog. You all know what this movie is. Say it with me. It is, of course, Make Mine Music. No, you've never heard of this movie, but it's a shame, and it's a shame that it isn't available. They're denying us some pretty hot side boob, but we'll get into that. Yeah, you've probably never heard of Make Mine Music. What this is the third of 6 of the so-called package films that the Walt Disney Company made in the 1940s. And by package films, we mean literally this is a collection of stuff. Animated shorts, some live action segments, but these are mostly animated movies. These animated shorts, some are very short. They are like the Mickey Mouse short that you would see before a movie, or they could be pretty long. They get pretty long such that you could add 10, 15 minutes to these and they would be an actual feature film. To explain why Disney started making these movies, we have to back out and give some history of the Walt Disney Company and of the world. So Disney, the company, makes its foray into feature animation in 1937 with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is not the first feature-length animated film ever made, but it is the first American feature-length animated film ever made. So it is very important. And Walt Disney himself bet the fortunes of the studio on the success of Snow White, and it was considered a folly. Walt's folly, they called it, but it paid off and then some. It was the biggest movie ever made at that point. It changed the trajectory of the movie industry and of animation because it showed that animated movies, full-length animated movies, are viable. In fact, they can be the biggest movies of all. And so the studio follows this up in 1940 with Pinocchio, which, for my money, best animated movie ever made in America. But at the time, it was a disappointment, actually. Triumph creatively, financially a disappointment, although it very quickly makes its money back rerunning over and over and over again. But Walt, for his next trick, did what all megalomaniacal artists do, and he decided to throw himself fully into a very ill-advised artistic experiment, Fantasia, which was supposed to change the game even more than Snow White did. Snow White was kid shit. Fantasia, this is for highbrow adults. This is for snooty people who listen to classical music. On the movie poster for Fantasia, we're going to advertise that we have Leopold Stokowski. Like all the jamokes and the palookas over in Jersey are going to see this poster and they're going to be like, oh yeah, Stokowski, I got to go see that movie. It wouldn't just be exhibited like a normal movie. It would be a touring roadshow. And that's because movie theaters would have to install this patented sound system, sound equipment. All this did was lose money for the studio. Still, though, one of the greatest animated movies ever made, one of the greatest movies ever made. But as all of this is going on, an extremely important event happens in the history of American animation. And it is that the great Disney animator Art Babbitt leads the Disney animator strike in May of 1941. It is an incredible story. Art Babbitt, an absolute hero, absolute legend, and Walt Disney, the evil villain of the story, the shitty capitalist who calls his employees his family, and they're betraying me. I pay them and I give them nice little treats and stuff. I'm a good boss. You don't need a union. The strike, though, is successful, and Walt Disney was forced to concede, sign a union contract with them, because that is how it's done, people. They're not going to voluntarily give away their power. You have to take it from them. And I highly recommend the book Disney Revolt by Jake Friedman to learn more about the Disney animator strike. And it's a great story. So as the strike is going on, the studio continues work on its next movie using scab animators. And they make Dumbo. They make Dumbo on the cheap. It is a much more modest movie. Honestly, it feels like one of the extended shorts that would later be in one of the package films. It feels more like The Wind in the Willows or Sleepy Hollow, but they release this 62-minute feature-length film, and it is actually a big hit. Now, about that animator strike, if you watch Dumbo, you will see there is a scene where there are some workers and they sing songs, and the song goes, "We work all day, we work all night, we never learn to read or write. We're happy-hearted roustabouts. We don't know when we get our pay, and when we do, we throw our pay away." And like, Walt Disney is like, that has to be in there. I have to really stick it to these dumb workers who would just blow all the money I give them anyway. So Bambi comes up after that, a more ambitious production than Dumbo, but it's also a creative or a financial disappointment. Okay, so I've just named 5 movies. If you look at the list of Disney animated features in chronological order, you're like, yes, I know all 5 of those movies. They're legendary movies. But then you will notice the next 6 movies, you'll probably not have heard of any of them. And that is because the business model entirely changed. The United States entered the Second World War, and the Walt Disney Company was unable to get loans to finance production of its next movies. In the pipeline, it had Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, and Alice in Wonderland. These movies wouldn't ultimately get made until the 50s. But they weren't able to get loans because the overseas movie market had dried up. People weren't going to the movies in Europe because Europe was the movie theaters in Europe were in ruins, were in rubble. So they need to find something else to do. Another thing that is happening is a lot of Disney animators literally get drafted to go serve in the military. But Disney, that inveterate capitalist, does what all inveterate capitalists do. He happily and hypocritically becomes the beneficiary of government largesse. The studio gets employed by the federal government to make propaganda films, live action films, animated films, military training videos, civilian preparation videos. And finally, the State Department pays the company to produce 2 feature films about Latin America, diplomatic outreach, basically, to the region to try to like convince the people of South and Central America, hey, please don't join the Axis powers. Please don't support the Nazis. Please support us. So we get Saludos Amigos and The Three Caballeros, the next 2 films in the Disney animated features canon. And these are compilations of shorts and live action footage set mostly in South America. The 2 first of the 6 package films. To watch them from beginning to end does not make you feel like you're watching an actual movie, but they're interesting. They have some really good animated shorts and some good segments. The war ends in 1945, but the studio is still not in great financial shape, and the world is rebuilding. And that overseas movie market it's not like the war ends and then all of a sudden the European movie market opens right back up. So the package films, because they're less expensive to produce, they're what the company continues to produce. Make Mine Music is the 3rd, and it has no specific political goals, no political dimensions. It's just a collection of animated shorts. The conceit is that it's dialogue-free animated segments set to popular music. It's kind of the populist version of Fantasia and a little bit more narrative-driven than Fantasia, but I'll explain the movie a little more in a moment. Disney follows this up with 2 more movies that are very similar to Make Mine Music. We have Fun and Fancy Free, which has the Mickey and the Beanstalk segment, and then we have Melody Time. And then the final package film is The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. That's in 1949, and it is the best by far of the package films because it is just 2 really good animated segments, The Wind in the Willows and Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Okay, anyway, so all of that is preamble. I mean, a lot of these shorts, a lot of these animated shorts and the longer segments you've probably seen before because they got reused into different programs. Mickey and the Beanstalk even got released on VHS. Sleepy Hollow got released on VHS by itself, but Make Mine Music, not released on home video in the United States until 2000. And even then, one of the segments from the movie was entirely removed and another segment was altered. And we'll explain that more in a moment. When the movie was finally released on Blu-ray in 2021, the deleted segment was still missing. The edited shot, still not there. This movie isn't on Disney Plus, but it's not a case like Song of the South where the movie is buried because you do have access to it. Again, you can buy it on DVD or you can buy it on Blu-ray or you can pay $20 to stream it on the Apple Store or Amazon Prime. But should you do this? No, I say, not really. Not unless you are an animation nerd, a Disney nerd, or even just a history nerd. I think that if you like sort of the history of Americana, it's fun to watch like what popular music was in the 1940s, see what they thought things like cool teenagers looked and sounded like. All right, let's go through the individual segments just a little bit. The first segment in the movie is called The Martins and the Coys, and this is the one that has been removed. This is the one that is censored, and that is because it has a lot of gun violence. It's inspired by the Hatfields and McCoys. You can watch it on YouTube. It's not hard to find, and I, of course, did edit it into my own version that I can stream for myself on Plex. But this segment has the Martins and the Coys, and they're all shooting each other dead, and then they all go up to heaven, and they watch the only 2 two remaining members left alive of their clan, a woman and a man, who end up getting married, but they continue the feud because there's no feud quite like marriage, that old battle axe battleground. Then we have Blue Bayou, which the movie calls a tone poem. And this is some Fantasia bullshit. This is, it feels like Fantasia. In fact, it was intended for Fantasia. Although this version in the movie has a new song rather than classical music. You just watch some egrets fly at each other. It's kind of boring. But this did inspire one of Disney's best restaurants, most well-regarded restaurants, Blue Bayou at Disneyland, which is in the same building as Pirates of the Caribbean. All right, All the Cats Join In is the other notorious segment. And that is because this movie, this short, has, I guess, an oldest sister, like an old teenage sister, and then a little like baby sister. And this neato fellow, he's just like hanging out and bebopping and scatting and grooving to the music of Benny Goodman. And he makes a call to the sexy babe. I really love in movies when you get to see teenagers right before rock and roll. You got to see the dangerous teens and they're just like bouncing around and bopping to jazz and swing music. But the phone rings. It's a hot guy who wants to take this hot babe out on a cool date. And so she runs to the bathroom and gets naked, gets in the shower, gets out. We see her from behind. This is pretty scanty, I say. In the unaltered version, you get to see a pretty generous amount of side boob. In the DVD version, the side boob has been chopped off. So that is what we are being denied. I guess this is the reason, the actual reason this movie isn't on Disney Plus. This cartoon, I think this cartoon rules. It's really good. We have Casey at the Bat, a baseball cartoon. It's based on an 1888 poem about baseball. So you're watching a 1946 movie about baseball that is nostalgic for baseball that's way older than 1946. It's nostalgia on top of nostalgia. This short's okay. Also inspired a Disney Parks thing. Casey's Corner in the Magic Kingdom is a hot dog restaurant themed after this movie. Then you got Peter and the Wolf. You got Johnny Fedora and Alice Bluebonnet. And you have the whale who wanted to sing at the Met, and they're all fine. What are we to make of all of this? It's an okay movie. I only think you should check it out from beginning to end. It's not a real movie. It doesn't feel like you're watching a real movie. It's a YouTube playlist. Should you watch this YouTube playlist? Again, if you're an animation nerd, yes. Otherwise, no, skip it. Still, I have it ranked as the second best of the 6 package films. Only Ichabod and Mr. Toad is ahead. And, if you're a fan of Disney animation or of side boob, give it a shot. Otherwise, ignore.